All right, welcome back to Under 450K. This is a bit of a different video than my normal videos that I do, and I thought I would do some a little bit more general content for all investors out there and not just suburb analysis. And so this is 50 lessons from a property investor, and this is all from myself. This is all the lessons I've learned so far in my property journey and some of the more important and critical things as well. Now, they're in no particular order, so you can watch them back and forth. And I highly suggest that you put this video in your background while you do your property research. So if I say a lesson and that suddenly sparks a little thought in your brain or makes you think just a little bit more about the investment decisions you're going ahead, then I have done my mission successfully of just trying to help one property investor. So let's get straight into lesson one. Have clear end goals, right? And what I'm not talking about is what's your 50-year goal? Are you trying to be financially free? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what's your 5-year goal? What is your 2-year goal? What is this next investment purchase going to do for you? Be clear about that. Is this second investment purchase meant to get you into your third property, into your fourth property? Work it out, because predicting what's going to happen in 5 years is much more easier than predicting what's going to happen in 50 years and reverse engineering it. Take it step by step, work out your next step, work out what this property goal is going to make you achieve in 5 years' time. Learn the fundamentals of property investing. So, what I mean by that is think about rental yields. What is property management? Who do you need in your team? Mortgage brokers, accountants, etc. What is a location? What is capital versus regional investing? Figure out the fundamentals of property investing. There is heaps of content online via YouTubers, via buyers agents, via property gurus, etc. There's a lot of fundamentals of property investing, and you can understand so much by simple research, 5-10 minutes a day. Now, cash flow is absolute king. Everyone talks about capital growth, capital growth, capital growth. Now, capital growth is incredibly important, but so is cash flow, right? Without cash flow, we can't hold the property and we can't fund the property. And if we're losing $1,000 per month in terms of cash flow, that's impacting our lifestyle as a person. Now, of course, we need to make sacrifices, but working out your cash flow, working out what your bottom line is so critical before you invest into a property. It's an underrated point. I think more people should do their cash flow statements properly. Now, use lender's mortgage insurance to your advantage. Lender's mortgage insurance is a beautiful thing that helps us get into property in a 90% sort of LVR situation. Now, if you don't know what lender's mortgage insurance is, go research it. It's an incredibly useful method to invest into property, and it's all about opportunity cost, right? By simply not paying lender's mortgage insurance, what is the opportunity cost you are missing out in terms of capital growth? Budget for the unexpected. Something will happen. Your air conditioning, might break down. You might need to replace some blinds. A roof might need replacing. You might have a leak. Budget for the unexpected. I have $10,000 of cash saved up for every single property I have, just in case something happens, right? If you budget for the unexpected, it'll help you work through those rainy days. Number 6, don't cross collateralize. Now, cross collateralization is a risky process towards building a property portfolio. Now, have some people done it? Yes. Do I personally know? Yes. However, I still think it's a risky strategy. If you're a mortgage broker and you are okay with the risk of cross collateralization, then you can go ahead with it. But please make sure you know the risks associated with it, what the bank does if you fail to make payments. Understand all the risks associated with it, then go ahead. But I do not usually advise people to do that. Location, 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 right? Location is so important when it comes to property investing, right? Buying a bad quality property in a good quality area is so much better than buying a good quality property in a bad area, right? There's no point buying 1,000 square meter piece of land in the middle of the outback where no one wants to invest into or no one wants to go live into, compared to buying a small townhouse in a capital city, right? Townhouses in New South Wales cost millions of dollars nowadays. Understand the power of compounding. Compounding works in property as it works in stocks as well. How I feel like people don't actually use the word compounding in property as well. Property number 1 could get you into property number 2, and then property 1 and 2 can get you into 3 and 4, and then 1, 2, 3 can get you into 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That is the power of compounding, and these will all build up on each other, and so that in 30 years' time, you'll be sitting on a stack of cash. right? We need to think about the long term here, not just the short term, but also the long term. Number 9, diversification is critical. Just because one place is booming doesn't mean you go buy 6 investment properties there. You buy 1, maybe 2 maximum, and then you move on to different areas, different states, and you start to diversify. So if New South Wales is booming, your Perth properties aren't booming. But if New South Wales is stagnant, then your Perth properties are booming, etc. That's how diversification is useful, so that in your property portfolio, one of the properties is always doing something. Population doesn't equal capital growth. Now, this is a controversial one. I believe population growth is important. You need to see the population growing. However, it does not always mean capital growth will occur. If supply meets the demand of population growth, that means house prices won't increase. We want population growth to outweigh supply, so that means supply is low and demand is high, and then we see capital growth occur. Land appreciates, building depreciates. This is an age-old lesson. People already know about this, but I thought I'd repeat it. Land appreciates. Now, again, that doesn't mean you go buy 1,000 square meter block of land in the middle of nowhere. So you really want to be aiming to buy properties on decent blocks of land on 400 square meters or more. These sub 300 square meter blocks of land for a house is just a little bit small in my risk appetite, in my personal strategy, but each to their own. Now, don't be a sheep. Don't be this sheep, right? Don't be this sheep. Don't just invest blindly just because someone says a place is booming. If Townsville is booming, don't just go blindly invest there. If someone says Rockhampton is booming, don't go blindly invest there. If someone says Victoria is going to be the next hotspot market, don't just go blindly invest there. Each location, each property location, each investment suits a specific type of person and suits a specific type of risk strategy and profile. And if you don't know what your risk strategy or profile is, then you shouldn't be investing in the first place. Don't just go blindly invest in places because people tell you to. No one cares about your money more than you do. Now, I've definitely stole this from another property investor out there on YouTube, but I think what he says is absolutely true. No one cares about your money more than you do. It's your money. You should be in control of what happens to it. You should think about what you do with it, right? As simple as that. Now, you don't need to pay $15,000 to a buyer's agent. Now, there's a caveat. If you are time poor and cash rich, then you can use a buyer's agent. But please educate yourself a little bit so you aren't led blindly by a buyer's agent. However, if you are time rich and cash poor, you should definitely be doing your own research and picking the investment location for yourself. Now, if you are time rich and cash rich, you can definitely use both, or you can just do it yourself. You have the assets in your hand to control. Number 15, purchasing the wrong asset is worse than purchasing no asset. Now, if you purchase the wrong asset and it's draining your view of money and giving you no capital growth in return and the cash flow is just terrible, then you've picked the wrong asset. Let me tell you that, right? If a property is costing you 15, 20K to hold in a year, what is the opportunity cost of that 15, 20K? Could you have gone and started a business, right? But now you've put transaction costs, you've bought the wrong asset, and you're stuck with a property that you don't want. Now, so please think about your purchase before you go ahead and buy it, because purchasing the wrong asset is worse than purchasing no asset, in my belief, because there is an opportunity cost to that money that you have invested in. Buy in areas with strong rental demand. You need to be buying in areas where rents are rising and where there is a vacancy rates are incredibly low. That's where you have good rental growth and it'll help with your cash flow. Don't just buy into areas with a high vacancy rate just because people say it has good capital growth. That is a bad strategy. 17, focus on future potential, not just current value. When you assess a property, you can quickly gauge if you can actually create future potential in that, whether it is through development, renovation, etc. Number 18, avoid all emotion. Now, I think most of you might have seen this movie, especially if kids, you've probably seen this movie. But you need to be avoiding all sort of emotion when you're property investing. At the end of the day, you are running a business, and a business is based on numbers. And if your numbers don't stack up, then you should not be investing in that location. It's as simple as that. Number 19, consider long-term maintenance costs, right? Make sure you're actually considering everything about that property in the long term. If you buy a 1960 brick home, there is still plumbing issues, electrical issues. You might have different issues. Do you need to add a air conditioner unit in the future? What are the long-term maintenance costs of this property? If it has ducted evaporative cooling or heating, what is the maintenance cost of those units? Number 20, make money on the way in. I don't think this is talked about enough. Negotiate well. Buy something under market value. Make 20, 30,000 on the way in when buying a property, right? Even if it's simple as $10,000 on the way in. There is money to be made on the way in, during capital appreciation, and on the way out. always money to be made in every stage of property investing. All right, counter-cyclical investing versus hot markets. You as an investor need to understand what both of these are. What does investing in a hot market mean? What does investing in a counter-cyclical market means, right? Do you want to jump into Townsville straight away, or do you want to jump into a market like Victoria straight away? It depends on your own risk strategy and profile, but understand what both of these methods are. A lot of people on YouTube will only talk about investing into hot markets because that's what gets views and that's what gets you instant equity growth. However, there are different strategies to property investing out there. Do your due diligence, do your research. Number 22, data is not everything. Just because data looks good on the surface level doesn't mean that is the be all end all. Data is important, but it is not everything. Use a bit of common sense when property investing. Talk to sales agents in the area when property investing. Talk to property managers in the area when investing. It is very, very important that you build relationships. You talk to people, humans on the other end of a phone when property investing, right? Don't just blindly invest because data says something. Data can be wrong. It can be manipulated. Think about it this way. If data was so perfect, why isn't every single research tool presenting data in the exact same way with the exact same numbers? No, because the way they interpret the data is different. The way they calculate the data is different. Understand local zoning laws. It's so important that you understand what the council laws are in terms of extension, subdivision, etc. Especially if you're looking for future value and future potential. It's super duper important you understand local zoning laws. If you're not bothered to do research, call up a property manager in the area and ask about certain issues or aspects or things that you have to watch out for. Number 24, always conduct thorough due diligence. I don't know why people these days are skipping building and pest inspections. That is absolutely ridiculous to me. Right? Just because you want to get into hot market, you're skipping one of the most important basic steps in property investing, which is conducting a P&P, doing title searches. These are so important and critical when you're buying a $500,000 asset. Build a solid team of professionals. So important. Mortgage broker, accountant, conveyancer. These people are your best friends. Property manager. So important to building a good portfolio in the long run. Now, before we go into the rest of the lessons of property investing, if you aren't already subscribed, go smash that like button and subscribe down below for more property content. And if you haven't already subscribed to my newsletter, please go subscribe. I get suburb gems every single Wednesday, and I go into in-detail analysis of each location and each suburb and provide in-depth knowledge for you guys. It's completely for free. Go check it out. Go subscribe. Number 26, your property manager is your best friend. Look at this person on the screen here. Do you want to be him? If you don't, then pick up the phone, find a good property manager, make sure they're personable, make sure they care about you, make sure they work for you and not for the renter. If you're trying to pick between two property managers and one is 7% and one is 7.7% in management fees, if the other one is a better property manager, just pay them the extra money. You're fighting over dimes and dollars when you need to have a good property manager in your corner. Number 27, understand tenants' rights and responsibilities. And this is more critical towards Victoria, and this is why having a good property manager is so important. But you need to understand what your rights are and your responsibilities are, and you need to understand what the tenants' rights are and the tenants' responsibilities are. And you need to call them out on their bullcrap if they're not pulling their end of the deal, right? 28, calculate your cash flow on a 3% above the current rate. If your rate is 6%, calculate your cash flow on a 9%. See if you can still hold the property. Now, do I think interest rates are going to go any higher? I doubt it, right? And I only think it'll only get lower or it'll just stay flat for a very long time. However, it's always good and best practice to calculate your cash flow on a higher rate than what you currently are on. 29, it's not all about financial freedom. Now, there's a lot of people online, buyers agents online, advertisements online that tell you you can achieve financial freedom by investing in 7 properties. If that was so easy, ask yourself, how many people do you actually know who have achieved financial freedom through property investing? It's not that many, I'm guessing, right? Financial freedom shouldn't be the end goal of everything about property investing. By simply investing in property in Australia, you are ahead of the curve. And once you get to your second or third investment property in Australia, you are ahead of 90% of the people in the country. And don't let buyers agents sell you a dream, by the way. Use your logic and common sense. Now, if you decide to go down the path of buying in smaller regional locations, sub 50,000 population or 60,000 population, assess the economic stability of that area every single 12 months. And the reason I say that is because these smaller locations are more prone to economic downturns if an industry collapses. Places like Gladstone, Albany, Geraldton, they're small regional towns. They are more prone to economic changes and challenges. So make sure you assess every 12 months, because if it's not going in the right direction, patient. It may be time to get out of the market. Focus on value add opportunities. What are simple renovations that you can do that can add $20,000 in terms of value to your property? Is there potential to subdivide or develop in the future? Is it a corner block with an easy access entrance to the back? These are simple things that you can think about that can seriously add equity to your property or make you quick capital growth. Conor McGregor once said that patience is a skill that we all must master. Now, that's so important in property investing. We need to be patient with the market. We need to let the market do its thing. Especially if you're sort of counter-cyclical investing and investing in slower growth markets, we need to be patient to see a lot of the growth happen. And be patient with yourself as well, and forgive yourself if you make mistakes. If you don't buy in the right market or the right property, be patient and allow yourself to make mistakes as well. Don't chase trends, invest on core fundamentals, right? Just because someone tells you to go invest somewhere, don't blindly follow them. Invest on the core fundamentals of what property investing is. Sometimes places that undergo gentrification can have the best opportunities to jump into the market at a very low point and then experience great capital growth. Understand what your tax implications are. If you make money, understand what stamp duty is, understand sort of what trust structures are and the implications of that. And the best way to understand all of these things is by talking to an accountant. Your accountant is another one of your best friends and another one that you want to include in your team of solid professionals. Number 36, forget about stamp duty and think long term. Stamp duty is a one-time cost. It is an important cost and it's a big cost, but forget about it, invest in it, pay in it, and then think about the long term and the capital growth that you will occur. Again, stamp duty is one of those things of opportunity cost. Just because you're getting hindered by stamp duty, you could be missing out on tens of thousands of dollars worth of growth. Number 37, negative gearing is not a strategy. And for anyone who tells you negative gearing is a strategy, you shouldn't be listening to them, right? Negative gearing is not a strategy. And if you're on a $100,000 income, to build a property portfolio, you don't want negatively geared properties. You want positively geared properties or at least neutrally geared properties, right? Negatively geared properties will hamper your ability to build a big property portfolio. And if anyone says otherwise, stop listening to them for advice. Paying more tax is a good problem to have. That means we're making more money. That's a good problem to have. Number 38, there's no such thing as passive income. Now, this is a controversial one. Yes and no. Right, property investing is pretty close to passive income, but it's not completely there. You still have to deal with a property manager. You still have to deal with the acquisition of the property. You still have to deal with the lawyers, conveyances, etc. It's not completely passive. It's a false myth told by people. Even after you buy the property, it's not completely passive. Right? You have to be active in it. You have to know what's happening. You have to know about the detail that's happening. It's not completely passive income. But it is true. You do make money while you sleep, which is a great thing to do. Number 39, don't buy your next property until you figure out how to finance your next property, right? Before you buy your first property, think about how you're going to get your second property. And if you're on your second property, think about how you're going to buy your third property. If you buy your second property, for example, does this cap you in terms of borrowing capacity? Okay, then maybe it will change my strategy. I can wait 2 years before I get my third property. But if I'm going to get my second and third property in the next 12 months, that means I need my second property to give me enough capital growth to buy my third property. So I need to go buy in a hot market, for example, to get me $100,000 equity. I can extract that, then buy the third property. And that's how you do your property investing. Think about your third and fourth property before you buy your second property. Think about your strategy. Number 40, only do renovations if you make $2 for every $1 you spend. For every single dollar you spend, you need to be making $2 in return. Otherwise, the renovation is not worth it. Simple blanket rule. It's pretty common throughout property investing, by the way. 41, stay updated on local property laws. This is so important. You want to be ahead of the curve and make sure that you cover all the property laws and that your property is compliant along with local laws and state laws, and your property manager should be helping you do that. Number 42, ensure your insurance coverage is adequate. If you don't have the right type of insurance, this can leave you legally liable and leave you with a huge bill. If you buy in a flood zone, make sure your insurance covers you for that flood zone immediately. Make sure there's no waiting period, etc. Make sure you have the right coverage. Number 43, prepared for market downturns. Market downturns will happen. Just be prepared for it. Number 44, network with other property investors. Have a good circle around you, right? You want to be surrounded by other property investors because they will give you the mental fortitude and will validate you in terms of the decisions that you make. But if you're surrounded by negative people like, why are you buying investment properties? You should just buy an apartment in Sydney and lose $10,000 a month. That's the wrong way to go about it. And if you can't find other property investors, stop listening to people who aren't property investors. Number 45, always negotiate the price. Even if you buy in a hot market where you have to overpay for the property, during the building and pest inspection, negotiate the price. Find faults in it so you can drop the price down lower. That's more money you can make on the way in and not just during the property cycle. Number 46, rent investing is not for the faint-hearted. No matter what anyone tells you, rent investing is a hard thing to do. It's a big maths calculation and you need to work out the risks associated with it. Please do your due diligence before you get into rent investing. Number 47, buying townhouses and apartments is not all bad. For example, in Sydney, townhouses cost over $1 million. Is that a bad investment? People would say if you bought that for $500,000 10 years back, is that a bad investment? I don't think so. Apartments are not all bad. If you buy the right type of apartment in the right block, in the right street, in the right area, you can make a serious amount of money. Don't go buy a high-rise apartment though for that fact. Those are terrible investment decisions. Don't let your property be vacant for too long. Listen to your property manager. If they tell you a property can rent out for $490, but you're like, no, I want to get $530 per week, right? But your property is sitting there 4 weeks vacant to find a tenant. Now you've lost out on $2,000 compared to if you just took a small pay cut. Review your property portfolio. You need to be reviewing your property portfolio every 12 months, thinking about ways you can de-risk your portfolio, thinking about which assets you should maybe cut or how you can redistribute money and funds. Just because you buy a property doesn't mean you have to hold it for the rest of your life. You buy property sometimes for the short term, you buy property sometimes for the long term. It depends on your lifestyle, your circumstance, and your risk strategy. Number 50, be mindful of property cycles. Property cycles are super important, right? You don't want to be buying at the peak. You want to be buying near the bottom, or the start of a recovery. Those are the places that you want to be buying in. Even in a rising market, it's okay to buy in, but nothing nearing the peak or the peak. Those are the two worst places to buy, as well as start of decline and declining market. Basically, nearing bottom and the rising market are the perfect places to invest depending on your risk strategy and profile and what you want to achieve in the next 12, 24, 36 months, etc. And that sums up 50 property lessons for investors out there. And if you haven't already, please smash that like button and go subscribe down below, as well as go check out my newsletter. I give property investment suburbs every single week on a Wednesday, and I go into in-detail analysis and break each location down piece by piece. You'll love it. It's completely for free. Please go check it out. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.